Hi, I'm Jamie Maguire, and in this lesson we're going to explore Azure Cognitive Services. Specifically, we're going to use the Text Analytics API to help us identify the underlying emotion in text or strings. We'll also use this API to help us surface popular keywords, phrases, and also use it to help us look at the existence of any entities that exist in the body of text. The API has many use cases, so whether it be helping you process and understand social media data at scale, or even helping you understand the information within your company's CRM, email, or other corporate data stores, this is an API that will help you surface actionable insights in the data that you're interested in. Other use cases such as chatbots and helping you process and understand human language are other applications of the API, so let's get started. So what are Azure Cognitive Services? They're a comprehensive family of AI services that help you build intelligent applications. Cognitive Services bring AI within the reach of every developer without any prior machine learning experience. All it takes is an API call to embed the AI capabilities into your existing applications. And you have APIs that belong to each of the 5 categories that we can see here, each of which gives your application the ability to see, hear, speak, search, understand, and accelerate decision-making processes. Each of the services can be deployed in the cloud, or if data privacy is a concern, containers can also be used. We're going to be focusing on the Text Analytics API, which belongs to the language category. This API ships with features that let you identify key phrases, sentiment, named entities, and linked entities. To the left, you can see text that is clearly expressing positive sentiment, and this text also contains some key phrases and entities like Seattle and Space Needle. To the right, you can see the rich information and insights the Text Analytics API has been able to identify, such as key phrases and sentiment. Being able to process data like this opens up a whole new world of possibilities when it comes to processing data. And extracting insights like this historically using traditional coding techniques would involve a ton of work. But now, with the power of the Text Analytics API and machine learning, you can do all of this with one API call. So let's look at a demo. In this demo, we'll see how we can use the Text Analytics SDK that you can get for free. And we'll use this SDK to write code that will let us extract the sentiment, key phrases, and entities in the text that we supply. It will involve a few steps, so we'll create a new console application, we'll add a reference to the NuGet package, and then we'll call the respective endpoints. The first thing we have to do is to create the service in Azure. We can do that by visiting the Azure portal and clicking Create Resource and searching for Text Analytics. By clicking Create, you'll be taken to a details screen. When taken to the details screen, take note of the endpoint and the key. These are unique values for you and shouldn't be shared. We'll use these to write our code. The next thing we have to do is to add a reference to the NuGet package. We can do that in this screen here. So we search for Text Analytics in the NuGet package manager and then clicking install. This will add a reference to our console application and will let us consume the Text Analytics API in Azure. After this is installed, we should be able to look at the nodes in the Solution Explorer and see that we've got a successful installation of the SDK down here. Now that the NuGet package is installed, we can then start to write code that calls the Azure service. The first thing we have to do is bring in the Azure region and key that we got from the portal. After we have those, the next thing that we have to do is to write some code that will let us make requests and add the authentication credentials to each API call that we make. That's what we can see here. We have some red squiggles here in Visual Studio, and that's only because we have to bring in some other libraries and references. We can quickly fix those by right-clicking on the red squiggles and selecting the recommended action. Finally, we'll add a method that just lets us make authentication calls to the text analytics client. This will accept the endpoint and the key, and we'll use this throughout each of the 3 methods that we're just about to write. This is the entry point for our console application. In here, we're going to make 3 calls to each of the methods of the text analytics API that we want to use. Each method accepts a document ID, which is the number, and then the second parameter being the string that we want to process. We have to write these methods now, so the first one that we'll do will be process entities. This accepts a document ID and a string. In line 48 we can see that we're making the authentication call, passing in the Azure region and the key, and then we simply output the response in a console application. We do the same for process key phrases, and then finally we'll write the code to process the sentiment. We can see all it takes to process sentiment is 1 line of code, and at which point the API gets invoked and we output that information into the console. So let's run the application. So we have a breakpoint, and here we can see the API has run successfully, and we've got entities, key phrases and sentiment, along with the rich insights that the text analytics API has produced. So that brings this tutorial to an end. In this tutorial we've introduced Azure Cognitive Services. We've seen how AI has effectively been democratized and is now available for the widespread developer community. We've also seen how you don't need any machine learning expertise to consume ML powered services anymore, and we can pull this stuff off the shelf through Azure. Specifically, we looked at text analytics, and we've seen how we can use the dedicated SDK to identify the underlying emotion and the key phrases and entities in a given body of text. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you.